Hey guys, in this video we're going to be looking at Crystron K9 combos where we summon Spell Canceller and ARISEHEART, because this deck can summon them surprisingly easily. So we'll be looking at two combos where we summon each of those cards and then two deck lists at the end. So let's get straight into the first combo. Okay, for this first combo we're going to be summoning out ARISEHEART, and the hand is going to be simply Noroi, and that's it. The rest are just random cards. I chose Noroi just because it's the most simple and like baseline combo, so it's the easiest to show. And yeah, we're gonna start by normal summoning Noroi and use its effect to special summon the Joku from the deck. Never mind, I got ashed. It's fine, I have callback. Noroi will summon Joku once this chain ends. There you go, Joku. Now, at this point, what you do, it already depends on what hand traps you want to play around, since, for example, if you want to play around Droll and Lockbird, then you would not activate Joku here and you would go straight into the Ripper. But at that point, if they had, for example, infinite impermanence, they would just imperm the Ripper and the combo ends right there. So I'm just going to pretend they don't have any other hand traps. I hope they don't. And so I can just show how this combo works. So we're going to activate Joku and search the Lantern. Now we can overlay for Ripper. Now we're safe from any other hand traps. And we can activate Ripper, detaching specifically Noroi, because otherwise this combo will not work. And we can search for Izuna. In theory you can also search Lupus, it's basically the same thing, but we're going to search Izuna. Now we can go ahead and use Lantern's effect to bring back our Noroi and summon itself. Then we can use Lantern's effect to search for the case, activate the case, and search for our second Joku, so we can use his hand effect. And now is the part where we can use Noroi's effect, sending the case so we can look at our opponent's hand. Let's see, does he have hand traps? He does not. Okay, that's good. So this is pretty important, especially for these type of combos where we're summoning out a floodgate, so we can see what deck our opponent is playing and what their hand is. Because, for example, this hand, they have 3 spells in hand. If I was playing Spell Canceller, then I'd be pretty happy and I'd definitely summon Spell Canceller. But if they're playing a deck which maybe doesn't have many spells, or they have a hand with like 5 monsters, then you could consider not going for Spell Canceller and pivoting your combo, which is why like this variant just works so well, because you can choose to summon your floodgate only when it's needed. But anyway, now we know what he has. We can activate Joku, reveal the Izuna, and summon out both. And we can use Izuna to mill the Lupus. And now we can overlay for the River Stormer, not using Noroi, and this is because we need to keep the machines on the field. And we can use River Stormer's effect to search for an Earth Machine monster. Now here I've seen some combos or some people where they just search Crab Crane and then make a ARISEHEART and basically end the turn, because Crab Crane is how you summon ARISEHEART using the outrigger extension, and that's fine and all, but at that point you wouldn't even access your Crystron part of the deck, which you can still do pretty easily, and I'm going to show you how. So we're going to search Scrap Recycler as you would normally do in Crystron K9. Now we can link off for Platinum Gadget. That's why we need Noroi, by the way, because it's a machine. And use Platinum Gadget to special summon our Scrap Recycler. Use Scrap Recycler's effect to send a Crystron to the graveyard. I'm gonna send Smiger, and I'm gonna use Smiger's effect instantly to search for Inclusion. And also activate Inclusion instantly to search for Sulfidor, which we do already have, but let's pretend we don't. And the reason we activate this right now is because we want a continuous spell to send for Clockwork Knight's effect. So on summon we can activate Clockwork Knight's effect, send a continuous spell you control to the grave to search for the other Clockwork Knight, and this is how we can search for the Crab Crane while also getting our Crystron stuff. So we can activate Clockwork Knight, and now we can activate the monster Clockwork Knight's other effect, tribute our Platinum Gadget we don't need, to revive Scrap Recycler and use his effect again, because it's not once per turn. and we can send another Crystron, this time Solfefnir. From this point we can link off these monsters we don't need, and we are going to make IP. Usually you would make SP with Clockwork Knight and Scrap Recycler, but with this combo we do need a link zone to be able to summon ARISEHEART. And if we make SP we won't have any link zones left, so we're going to use Masquerena, link these two, and summon Masquerena. Then we have a link zone pointing downwards at least. And now at this point, we can go for Solfefnir's effect, discard the Sulfur researched, summon itself, and pop the Clockwork Knight. That's how we get it to the graveyard. Now we can use Clockwork Knight's effect, discard a card, and search for the Crab Crane. Now, at this point, we're not going to activate Crab Crane just yet because our trigger extension locks to Earth machines. So we're going to do our Crystron combo first. Now, this Sulfur we already had, so we're going to use the Sulfur in the graveyard, pop the Solfefnir, summon itself. I'll go Chainlink 1 and Chainlink 2. Summon the Tristaros from the deck, and send Cluster and an Inclusion to the grave for follow-up. Now I can synchro into Elsketus, add back the Cluster. This is just standard Crystron combo in K9. Nothing really extraordinary. Activate Tristaros, pop the Elsketus, get 2 level 5s, bring back Tristaros, etc, etc. There, Elsketus trigger to revive our Tristaros. Overlay for Nova and Infinity. Lastly, we can use Inclusion in the graveyard to bring back Elsketus. Simply so Cluster has 2 pops. That's really the only reason. And there, we finally finished our Crystron combo. We can use Crab Crane. So to summon Crab Crane, we have to tribute one Earth Machine monster. We can tribute the leftover Clockwork Knight. Summon itself, then use its effect, banish a machine from graveyard, it doesn't really matter, to search for the outrigger extension. And this is the spell which lets us make a ARISEHEART. Basically you have to target an Infinitrack Xyz and then you can rank up into a machine of 2 ranks higher. So we can activate it. Now our only target for the rank up is Riverstormer, who's currently in the graveyard. Thankfully, Riverstormer has an effect to revive itself by tributing a machine link. So we can simply link off Crab Crane for the Infinitrack Goliath. And this is why we needed the link zone in the first place, so we can summon Goliath. And now we can revive Riverstormer by tributing Goliath, bring it back, which will also trigger Goliath to attach itself. Which is good because it has an effect when attached to make the Xyz monster indestructible, right here. Now we can finally use Outrigger extension on Riverstormer and simply summon Kashtira ARISEHEART. And it's pretty nuts because Goliath makes it indestructible and Outrigger extension makes all your machine Xyz untargetable. So you have an untargetable, indestructible ARISEHEART, you have an untargetable Infinity, full Crystron K9 board, Cluster, it's pretty cracked. So let's just count all the interruptions we have. I think it's like 8 or so. We have Ripper, which is hand or graveyard monster negate, Infinity, which is Omni negate, Tristaros to summon the Dawn Jackster, IP Masquerena, which summons SP, that's a double interruption, around 5 now, ARISEHEART for quick effect banish, that's 6, Cluster to pop 2, that's 7, and lastly is the Lupus in the graveyard to bring back and Xyz with itself and the Dragster once it turns itself into level 5 into some random Xyz, that's interruption number 8. On top of all that you have untargetable ARISEHEART, untargetable Infinity. It's pretty insane. So yeah, all that off of just 1 Noroi. And the only downside really is playing a couple bricks, being the extension and the Crab Crane, whatever it was, and Clockwork Knight also to a point. But anyway, let's just get into the next combo. Alright, for this second combo, we are going to be summoning Spell Canceller. Now what you may notice for the end board of this combo is that it may feel a bit underwhelming compared to the previous one we just did. But that's just how the combo works, and you'll see we bump into a little issue in the combo, but the main goal is to summon Spell Canceller, and that we do achieve. So let's just begin. We normal summon a Roy. Just like last time, the start is going to be basically exactly the same until we reach Scrap Recycler. So we're going to special summon Joko from the deck, use its effect to search for Lantern. Make the Ripper, so we're safe from hand traps. And then detach an Roy to search for Izuna or Lupus. Use Lantern to bring everything back. And activate Lantern's effect to search for the case. And use case to search for the second Joku. Now you can use Noroi again to send case. Look at the hand. Let's see what they got. Goodness gracious. Okay, if this was actually a real game, spell cancel would be pretty good because we have 2 spells, so that become useless. 2 traps, which are realistically doing nothing, and then some random monster. So yeah, it depends what they have and what deck it is, because some decks they rely on their... I just revealed the wrong thing, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Okay, in the end it doesn't matter because you don't need it, but this could have been Izuna to send Lupus. Let's just remember that, because I was talking, I wasn't focused. Anyway, summon River Stormer using those 2. What was I even talking about? Right, there's decks which rely on spells to do their combos, and so spell cancel is good against those decks. And there's other decks who don't rely on them, but even then they can still draw a bunch of spells, and then spell cancel is still good. Anyway, we're at this point. We're gonna search Scrap Recycler, and now we can make a Platinum Gadget with River Stormer and Noroi, and use it to summon Scrap Recycler, just like last time. That's okay. Summon Scrap Recycler. And we will send Smyger again, but this time we don't have to use it because we don't need any Clockwork Knight stuff. I mean, we don't need the spell, so we can instantly link off for Clockwork Knight. Use his effect to summon Scrap Recycler again. But this time we're going to be sending the Spell Canceller. And this is really the only way to access it, because it's not an Earth machine, so you can't get it off the Clockwork Knight spell. You just send it off Scrap Recycler, and then we're gonna see how we summon it. So first we can link these 2, and this is where we bump into the issue. So our Crystron combo is Smyger, but it's only Smyger, and that means we're gonna activate Inclusion, search for the Sulfador. But then the only way to summon Sulfador is with its effect, which locks you into machine. But to summon our Spell Canceller, we need to make Imperial Princess Quinkery, which can revive a level 5 basically. But it's impossible to do that before summoning your Sulfador, so it gets really awkward. Basically the solution is to summon Armalar, which can summon a level 5 from hand, equal to whose level is the same as a monster in the same zone. So it's also important that you summon your monster, your K9, to the link zone, so that your Armalar can target it and then special summon a monster from the hand of the same level. So now we can use Smyger to search Inclusion, and use Inclusion to search for Sulfador. And that way we can summon Sulfador, but not using its effect, so we're not going to be locked into anything. But we still get his effect on summon, I think. No, we don't, but we can summon it later, right? So we use Armalar, target the random K9, summon Sulfador. His effects are negated, so we don't activate him, but we can use his graveyard effect later to bring him back and then use his effect. So here we can go for the Quinkery, and now we have to detach Sulfador if we want to get his effect. So detach Sulfador and bring back Spell Canceller onto our side. And boom, that's all spells are negated and you can't activate spells. Now we can activate Sulfador's graveyard effect. Now that we summoned out Spell Canceller, we don't care about the machine lock, and summon him out. Use his effect to mill the trap and Tristaros, so that we can use Inclusion to bring back Tristaros. And now you may notice we're going to bump into another issue in this combo, which is we're not going to have enough zones to get the triple revive or triple summon from ARISEHEART being destroyed, which is really, it's annoying, it's unfortunate, but there's really nothing we can do about it, because Armalire cannot be used as link material, so they're just stuck there. And Quinkray is also kind of stuck here. We can't summon anything. It's annoying, but it is what it is. We just have to use Tristaros effect and summon only 2 Crystrons, and we don't get the third summon. But in the end, it's not really a big deal, because Tristaros doesn't matter, because you don't want Dragster, since we already have Spell Canceller. In theory, you would just revive ARISEHEART to get a second pop of Cluster, but it's not the end of the world. Here we can just make Nova Infinity to wrap it up, and that's basically the end of the combo. We can use Infinity to attach the Armalire's material, just finally get it off the field, but that's all we can do. And so you see there's a lot less interactions as last time, but we have Spell Canceller. So to count everything, we have Ripper, which is a monster negate from Hand or Grave, Infinity, which is Omnigate, and Cluster to pop a card. We should also have Lupus and Grave, but I did misclick the monster, so we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 interruptions if you're willing to exceed using Spell Canceller, which you probably shouldn't. We also have Quinkray, and Quinkray actually has an effect. If a level 5 is destroyed or leaves the field by card effect, you can add to hand or special summon a level 5 from the deck. Which, well, I guess if they do get rid of Spell Canceller, you can summon a 5 and then Exceeds of Lupus if you want. If you want to be extra funny, you can play 2 Spell Canceller and then just summon a second one from the deck. But yeah, that's about it for this combo, and let's look into some deck lists. Okay. Alright, so this is the deck list for the ARISEHEART version, and I already showed my list for my regular Crystron K9 build in my previous replay video, so this is just based on that with a few changes. For ARISEHEART, in the main deck we had to add in 3 cards, being the Outrigger extension, the Crab Crane, and the Clockwork Knight. And so what I removed from my standard build was the K9 X Force Released, mainly because it's already somewhat of a brick. It's also an endboard piece which you often get using Sulfefnir's effect by going Sulfefnir to pop the case, and then case will search the Force Release. But now we're trying to pop the Clockwork Knight, so we're not going to get it as often. And also it takes extra deck commitment, and our extra deck is also tighter already because of ARISEHEART, so I thought it's fine to cut the Force Release. And the last 2 cards I cut were just random engine and non-engine. I cut 1 Droplet, 1 Chaotic Element. I just thought those were the most unnecessary cards. And for the extra deck, we had to add in also 3 cards: ARISEHEART, IP Masquerena, and the Infinite Track Goliath. So what I cut from my normal build was the Werewolf, since we're not playing Force Release, and then basically 2 flex spots. So I was playing Vimana and Durendal, so I just cut both of those since they're not needed, they're just useful in certain situations. And for the Spell Canceller build, we can remove the 3 ARISEHEART cards, add in Spell Canceller, and then add back what I cut. So Chaotic Element and Droplet. I still don't think you need Force Release, but it's really up to you. And from the extra deck, remove the ARISEHEART Goliath Masquerena and add in Armalire and Quinkray. For the last one, really could be anything. I think Vimana is most useful, but there is also the option of removing Dragster, since if you're going for Spell Canceller, then Dragster is kind of useless anyway. But there is the situation where you might not want to make Spell Canceller because of the commitment, and if you use Noroyancy, they don't have spells. You're not going to really want to go for Spell Canceller and go for a more regular board with maybe access to Jackster if they have one spell, but you won't want to go all the way to spell canceller. So maybe Jackster still, I think, a good inclusion. But I mean, you could definitely play maybe Werewolf if you want instead and put Force Release back, or play Durandal or anything. But yeah, that's basically it. One thing I want to do mention though is an unreleased card, which might be relevant, called Infernal Strike Fighter. So it's not in Master Duel right now, so I didn't use it, but it's basically a Synchro 7 machine, and it has an effect when it's destroyed. It can basically bring back a machine from the graveyard, and so that could be pretty useful in the spell canceller build, since it's a machine, which means you don't have to make Quinkery, who's a Cybers, which means you can ignore Sulfador's Lock and just do regular Crystron combo and summon spell canceller using the Synchro. So that might be a improvement, but right now it's not in the game, so I can't use it. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed. Have fun floodgating your opponents, and I'll see you in the next one.